You have heard it said, feel it and it will come. But what does that truly mean? Is it just some emotional reaction or wishful thinking? No. The power to change your life lies in something far deeper. The ability to feel from the end. Not feel for the result, but feel from it like it has already happened. This is not imagination for fantasy's sake. It is creation in its purest form. Most people wait for their world to change before they allow themselves to feel successful, loved, wealthy, or free. But here's the truth. Your world is only reflecting what you first feel to be true inside you. Today I will teach you how to feel it, how to activate the spiritual sense of fulfillment before any evidence appears. Once you master this, there is nothing you cannot become, achieve, or attract. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is not a poetic idea, it is a spiritual law. Everything you experience in the external world is the reflection of a state you have once accepted as true within yourself. The moment you assume that what you desire is already yours, you activate a shift in consciousness. And it is this shift, not effort, not struggle, that causes the world around you to rearrange itself to match the new inner state. So what does it mean to assume the feeling? It means to mentally and emotionally place yourself in the end result. You no longer look at your desire from a distance. You no longer say, I want it, I hope it comes, or maybe someday. Those words, keep it separate. Instead, you say, it is done, it is mine, I have it. You enter the scene where your wish has already been granted and feel your way into it as if it were happening right now. This is not pretending, it is not daydreaming, it is spiritual identification. You become the person who already has what you want. You think as that person, feel as that person, move as that person. You don't wait for the outer world to change to feel it. You feel it first. That is the key. The feeling must come before the manifestation, not after. For example, if you desire financial abundance, do not focus on needing more money. That creates a vibration of lack. Instead, ask yourself, how would I feel if I already had more than enough? Would I walk differently? Would I breathe more easily? Would my conversations change? Would I wake up feeling peaceful, generous, empowered? Then, feel that. Assume that calm confidence. Feel the security. Dwell in the ease and fullness of already having what you once thought was missing. This is the secret. Reality does not respond to your need, it responds to your belief. And your belief is best expressed through feeling. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. Words may convince the conscious mind, but feeling is what imprints upon the deeper self, the creative self, the part of you that shapes your world. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are instructing the subconscious to produce the circumstances, people, and events that match that feeling. Now, will doubt come? Yes. Will the outer world still show signs of the old story for a time? Absolutely. But your job is not to fix the world. Your job is to remain faithful to the new feeling, even if everything around you contradicts it, especially when it does. This is how you prove your dominion, not by reacting to appearances, but by holding your inner state steady like a flame in the wind. You may think, but I've never experienced this before. How can I feel something I've never had? That is the beauty of imagination. You can create the feeling by choosing it. Sit in silence, breathe, close your eyes. Struck the scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Then enter into that scene, not as a viewer, but as a participant. Touch the walls, hear the sounds, smell the air. Most importantly, feel what it feels like to be there and hold that feeling as long as you can, even if just for a minute. That minute is powerful. That minute is planting a seed. Every time you return to that feeling, you water the seed. And just as a seed in the soil takes time to sprout, so too will your assumption take time to manifest. But if you remain loyal to the feeling, it must express itself in the world. It is law. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know when. Just stay there inwardly. The wish is fulfilled. And now you are only living from it. Assume the feeling. Not later, not tomorrow, not when conditions are better. Assume it now. Feeling is the secret code of creation. It is the invisible force that speaks directly to the subconscious, the hidden architect of your reality. Every experience you have in life is a direct outpicturing of the feelings you've accepted as true, whether consciously or unconsciously. Most people try to think their way into a new life, repeating affirmations, visualizing, or setting goals without ever touching the emotional root. But thought without feeling is like a key without teeth. It cannot unlock the door. Feeling is the power that turns the idea into experience. To create anything deliberately, you must go beyond thinking about it. You must feel it. You must activate within yourself the same emotional tone you would have if the desire were already real. Why? Because the subconscious does not respond to logic. It does not recognize I will be, I want to be, or I hope to be. It only responds to what you feel to be true now. Your inner emotional state is the signal, and the world is the echo. If you wish to experience love, success, health, or abundance, then you must feel those things before they appear. This may sound backwards to the logical mind, but creation is not a process of cause and effect in the physical world. It begins in the unseen. You are not waiting for things to happen. You are instructing life through the signal of your feelings. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the command. A casual thought with no emotional charge will drift away like a leaf in the wind. But a thought wrapped in deep feeling sinks into the subconscious like a seed planted in rich soil. And it is from that inner soil that all your outer experiences grow. This is why repeating words alone often brings little change. You can say, I am successful 100 times a day, but if underneath you still feel like a failure, the dominant feeling will win. The subconscious accepts the feeling, not the words. Words may deceive the mind, but feelings cannot lie. They reveal the truth of what you believe deep down. But here lies your power. You are not a victim of your feelings. You are the creator of them. You can choose to feel something different regardless of outer conditions. Even if your current world shows lack, you can generate the feeling of abundance within. Even if no one has yet recognized your worth, you can cultivate the feeling of being deeply valued. And when you do, the world must conform. It has no choice. It reflects the inner atmosphere you sustain. This process is not about faking it or forcing emotions. It is about surrendering into the version of you that already has what you desire and allowing the natural feelings of that version to arise. You don't manufacture the feeling, you discover it by stepping into the state of the wish fulfilled. You immerse yourself in the inner world where your desire is already a fact. And from that place, you let the emotion bloom. When you feel something long enough, deeply enough, it becomes a belief. And when it becomes a belief, it becomes your reality. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract what they want. They are not better or luckier. They simply carry a feeling tone that aligns with what they desire. They don't chase it. It comes to them because they've already embodied it inwardly. Everything you desire is already yours in the invisible realm. The only thing required is alignment. And alignment is not found through effort, but through feeling. Feel the end as real. Feel the joy, the peace, the gratitude of having what you seek, not someday, now. That feeling is the key. That feeling is the code. When you learn to unlock it, life responds without resistance. Use your imagination as a living theater, not as a place to escape, but as the sacred stage where you rehearse the reality you are choosing to create. The imagination is not some idle daydream or fanciful illusion. It is the workshop of the soul. It is the invisible canvas on which the visible world is painted. Everything you now see, everything you call your reality, was first imagined by you or someone else. And until you begin to use your imagination consciously and deliberately, your life will remain a reflection of unconscious patterns and old memories. When you imagine something with feeling, with detail, and with conviction, you are not just playing a mental game. You are entering the creative act itself. You are planting the scene, setting the stage, and stepping into the role of the version of you who already has the desire fulfilled. This is not a passive visualization where you merely watch events unfold from a distance. This is an embodied participation. You must become the actor in your own imagined story. You must see what you would see, hear what you would hear, feel what you would feel if your desire were already true. The power of imagination lies in its ability to override the senses. It allows you to look beyond what is and focus instead on what could be, until that could be becomes is. Most people are slaves to their five senses. They only believe what they can see, hear, and touch. But the inner world is more powerful than the outer, because it is the cause. The outer world is merely a reflection of past inner states. And when you begin to treat your imagination like reality, reality begins to reshape itself to match your imagination. Construct your scenes carefully. Choose a moment after your desire has already been fulfilled. If you want a new home, imagine walking through the hallway, touching the walls, looking out the window at your perfect view. If you desire love, imagine holding hands, hearing the voice of someone who truly cherishes you. If success is your goal, see yourself shaking hands after a big achievement, reading the message that confirms your breakthrough. Make it real, not just in visuals, but in emotion, tone, texture. Let your whole body participate. And don't just do it once and forget. Return to your theater often. Rehearse the scene daily, not out of desperation, but out of joyful expectation. Make it a sacred ritual, not because the outer world demands it, but because you are aligning more deeply with the reality you are choosing. Every time you return to the scene, you deepen the groove in your subconscious mind. You reinforce the truth of the unseen. You breathe life into your inner creation. This is how the future is born, not from worry, not from wishful thinking, but from the focused and repeated use of your imagination. The subconscious does not know the difference between a real event and an imagined one when it is experienced vividly. It takes what you give it and begins to move in that direction, attracting ideas, circumstances, people, and events to make that scene your lived experience. You are the writer, the director, the lead role in your inner drama. The world outside will only play the part you've assigned it through your imagination. Stop replaying old stories of failure and rejection in your mind. Stop scripting scenes of doubt, delay, or disappointment. Tear down that old set. Build a new one, a greater one that honors your true power and potential. Your imagination is not pretend. It is the blueprint. It is the rehearsal before the curtain rises on your real life. Use it not to escape the world, but to transform it. When you live from your inner theater with clarity and conviction, the outer world has no choice but to catch up. Because what you feel and imagine with persistence, you will one day walk into. Persistence trumps evidence. The world may tell you what is, but it does not dictate what must be. When you decide to manifest a new reality, the evidence around you will often scream the opposite. It will tempt you to doubt, to retreat, to return to the comfort of the familiar. But in that moment, you must remember, what you see with your eyes is not final. It is merely the residue of past thoughts, old beliefs, and former feelings. If you allow appearances to dictate your state, you remain bound to them. But if you persist in your assumption, in your inner truth, then appearances must eventually bend. Persistence is not a forceful struggle. It is not blind repetition. It is unwavering loyalty to your inner vision. It is continuing to feel, think, and act as though your desire is already fulfilled, even when nothing seems to be changing. That is real strength. That is true faith. Not faith in some external power, but faith in the unseen reality you are nurturing within. Faith in the law that what is felt consistently must externalize itself. There will be times when your senses rebel, when the bank account looks empty, when the relationship seems distant, when the opportunity appears to be denied. And in those moments, the weak mind collapses. It says, see, it's not working. It's all just fantasy. But the persistent mind knows that outer conditions are always delayed reflections. What you feel today may not show up tomorrow, but it is already in motion. Just as a seed takes time to break the surface and blossom, your inner assumption requires time and space to unfold. Most people give up too soon. They try to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and when results don't appear quickly, they abandon the state. They start checking, doubting, reacting to the old world. But the ones who persist, not once, not twice, but daily, those are the ones who see the unseen become seen, because they understand the law. Reality conforms to the persistent assumption, not to fleeting wishes. Persistence is creative power in motion. It is the steady holding of your inner state, regardless of opposition. It does not mean you never feel doubt. It means you don't live in doubt. You acknowledge it and then return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled again and again. You don't get discouraged by delay. You remain in the end, even when the beginning hasn't caught up. You walk through the world as if it has already happened, and you don't look back. Imagine a sculptor chiseling a masterpiece from stone. The first strike reveals nothing, nor the second, but each tap shapes the form. So it is with your persistent thoughts and feelings. Every time you assume your desire is real, you are shaping your world. You may not see it yet, but something is being carved. The form is being molded by the unseen hand of your faith. Let others chase evidence. You hold your vision. Let the world call it delusion, fantasy, or denial. You know better. You are not reacting to the world. You are instructing it. You are not looking for proof. You are becoming the proof. Because every time you choose the feeling of fulfillment over the feeling of fear, you move closer to the inevitable manifestation. You are not waiting on the world is waiting on you to persist. And when you do, something remarkable happens. Slowly at first, and then suddenly, the world rearranges, doors open, coincidences occur, people change, events align, not because you forced anything, but because you stayed faithful to the unseen. So no matter what you face, no matter how strong the evidence against you may appear, remember this: it is only real if you give it power. If you persist in your new reality with calm certainty, the old must fade. It has no choice. That is the law. Enter the state before you act. This is the great key to effortless manifestation. Too often, people move through life backward. They act from their current state and then hope their actions will somehow produce a new feeling or a new result. But action that springs from a state of lack only multiplies that lack. Action that comes from fear reinforces fear. True transformation begins not with doing, but with being. You must first step into the inner state of the person who already has what you desire, and then allow your actions to flow naturally from that place. The state of consciousness you occupy at any given moment determines everything: how you speak, what choices you make, what you attract, and how you respond to the world. When you try to force results from a state of worry, need, or doubt, your actions become frantic, scattered, and unaligned. You may be busy, but you are not effective. You are chasing instead of receiving. But when you first enter the state of the wish fulfilled, when you assume the feeling of already being successful, loved, wealthy, or free, then your actions become charged with power. They are no longer trying to get. They are expressing what already is. This inner shift changes everything. You may still do the same things, but they will have a different energy. For example, if you desire abundance and you act while feeling broke or desperate, your energy repels the very thing you want. But if you first enter the state of financial ease, feeling relaxed, secure, and grateful for your abundance, then even small actions become powerful. You spend wisely, you attract opportunities, and others sense your confidence. The outer world responds to the state, not just the effort. The question is not, what should I do, but who am I being as I do it? Are you making that phone call as someone who believes they're already valued and wanted, or are you calling to prove your worth? Are you starting that project as someone who knows it will succeed, or are you acting in hope, with doubt in the background? The difference is subtle but profound. It is the difference between struggle and flow, between efforting. To enter the state, you must quiet the noise of your senses and your past and shift inward. Close your eyes, let the outer world fade, and feel what it would be like if your desire were already yours. Don't try to figure out how it will happen. Don't reach for signs. Just feel the reality of it. Let it become familiar. Let it become normal. Stay there just for a few minutes. And when you return to the world, act from that place. Let your conversations, your decisions, your movements arise naturally from that new identity. This is not pretense. It is not playing make-believe. It is calling forth the deeper truth, the version of you that already exists in potential, the version of you that your inner world has already created. When you live from that place, your actions are not forced. They are inevitable. They feel right. You don't need to push, chase, or hustle. You simply respond from a knowing that is already done. Most people exhaust themselves trying to act their way into a new life. But when you enter the state first, life begins to meet you. The right people appear. The next steps reveal themselves. Synchronicities increase. Why? Because you have aligned yourself with a new frequency, and action from that frequency draws matching results. So, before you act, pause. Don't ask what to do. Ask who you are being. Step into the state of the wish fulfilled, and let everything flow from there. When the state comes first, the world follows. Every time, sleep in the state of fulfillment. There is no more powerful time to impress your subconscious mind than the final moments before sleep. As you drift into that mysterious threshold between waking and dreaming, your conscious mind softens, and the door to your deeper self swings open. Whatever you carry with you into sleep, whatever thoughts, feelings, or assumptions dominate your inner world, sink directly into the fertile soil. That soil does not judge or resist. It accepts what you give it and begins to mold your reality accordingly. So you must be intentional about what you bring into your sleep. Many people go to bed replaying the worries of the day. They think about what didn't go right, who let them down, what bills are unpaid, what dreams feel distant. They carry anxiety, regret, and lack into the night, and then wonder why they wake up feeling stuck in the same loop. But when you choose to sleep in the state of fulfillment, when you deliberately assume and feel that your desire is already yours, you plant seeds of transformation that grow while you rest. To sleep in the state is to close your eyes and enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not to beg, not to hope, but to assume. You don't need to visualize every detail perfectly. You don't need to force a scene. Simply feel yourself into the experience of already being the person who has what they desire. If it's love, feel cherished and chosen. If it's success, feel proud and secure. If it's healing, feel whole and alive. Let that feeling become your pillow. Let it be the soft place where your awareness settles. This is not something you do once. It is a practice, a nightly return to the truth you are choosing. Each time you do it, you deepen the imprint. You condition your subconscious to accept this new version of you as the default. And slowly, silently, your outer world begins to echo that inner conviction. Your days begin to mirror your nights. They feel unnatural at first, especially if your current reality contradicts your desire. But that's exactly why it works. The subconscious doesn't argue with appearances. It responds to repeated inner feeling. And what you feel consistently while falling asleep, the most receptive state of the day, carries immense creative power. Even if your desire seems far away, even if the day brought challenges or disappointments, you can still choose your final thought. You can still return to the feeling of it is done. You don't need to spend hours doing this. A few minutes of focused inner attention is enough. Let your body relax. Let the outer world fade. Turn inward and surrender to the experience of already being where you want to be. Smile gently to yourself as if you've received the news you've been waiting for. Let your heart beat with quiet confidence, and then drift off, not in hope, but in certainty. As you continue this practice night after night, your dreams may begin to reflect your new state. Your emotions may shift during the day. Ideas may rise from within. Opportunities may start to appear. But even if none of that shows up right away, don't stop. The subconscious does not operate on your clock. It works in perfect timing, organizing your world according to your dominant inner state. So make it a sacred ritual to go to sleep as the version of yourself who already has, already is, already lives the life you desire. Because the truth is, your world does not change when you get the thing. It changes when you become the one who has it. And there is no better moment to become that version than in the silence of the night, where your imagination is unchallenged and your inner world is fully yours. Sleep then, not as who you've been, but as who you've chosen to be, and watch the world bend to meet you. Detach from the outer and trust the inner. This is the essence of true manifestation. It is not about forcing the world to give you what you want. It is about turning away from appearances, letting go of the need to control, and surrendering deeply to the inner truth that your desire is already real. The outer world is a mirror, not a master. It reflects your dominant inner state, not your hopes or struggles. The moment you allow the outer to dictate your feelings, you have handed your power over to something that is already old, already shaped by past thoughts and assumptions. To detach from the outer does not mean to ignore life or pretend things don't exist. It means you no longer react to what you see. You stop measuring your progress based on circumstances. You stop looking at the physical world for confirmation. You understand that the outer world is slow, delayed, reflective. It trails behind your inner convictions. So you no longer anxiously watch it. You no longer ask, when will it come, or why isn't it here yet? Instead, you trust the process. You trust the unseen forces that are responding to your inner world with exact precision. This kind of detachment is power. It is not passive. It is calm. It is the confidence that you don't need proof because you already possess the feeling. When you're truly in the state of the wish fulfilled, you are no longer searching. You're no longer checking. You walk differently. You speak with quiet assurance. You move through the world knowing that what is yours is on its way, or even better, that it is already here in a form you may not yet see. You don't chase, you don't cling, and you don't beg, you allow. The inner realm is the source of all that you experience. Your imagination, your assumptions, your beliefs, these are the architects of your reality. So when the outer seems off course, you don't fix the outside. You return to the inside. You recalibrate your inner world. You re-enter the feeling of the fulfilled desire. You say, it is done, and you live from that. That is trust. That is the unseen anchor that holds your world steady, even when the winds of life try to shake it. Most people do the opposite. They wait for something to happen so they can feel better. But if you wait to feel good until you see the evidence, you delay everything. Feeling must come first. Belief must come before sight. You must become so rooted in your inner conviction that the outer world no longer has the power to make or break you. This is not indifference. It is clarity. It is the realization that you are the cause, not the effect. Sometimes the world will test your resolve. Things may appear to fall apart. Delays may happen. People may doubt you. But if you remain anchored in the truth of your inner state, none of it will move you. You won't be shaken by delay because you've already arrived in consciousness. You won't be disheartened by appearances because you know they must follow your inner shift. And if you ever waver, you gently return, not with desperation, but with intention. You realign. You feel it again. You trust. Again, this trust becomes your foundation. It's the quiet knowing that you don't need to force life. You only need to feel, assume, and persist. The rest is not your job. Your job is to align, to remain faithful to the end within, and to act from that place. The results, the timing, the path, These will unfold with precision and ease, not because you chase them, but because you trusted deeply enough to detach from everything outside you. When you do this consistently, life begins to reflect your inner state with such harmony that you realize you never had to chase anything. You only ever had to become it within and trust that the world would follow. This is a powerful conclusion to your speech. I will teach you how to feel it, written in the style of Neville Goddard, without mentioning him, bringing all 7 keynotes together in one closing message. Now, you know the secret is not in doing, chasing, or waiting. It's in feeling. You must feel it real, assume the end, and walk boldly from that place. The outer world is not your guide, it is your echo. Your job is not to manipulate the mirror, but to change the face you present to it from within. You must become the person who already has what they desire, not by force, but by inner conviction. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when you treat your imagination as a sacred theater where all reality begins, you stop asking if it will happen. You live from the knowing that it already has. And in that stillness, in that trust, the world begins to rearrange itself to match the vibration you've chosen. You may not see the result instantly. That doesn't matter. Evidence is always late. But your persistence is power. When you feel it first, when you sleep in a state of fulfillment, and when you detach from appearances while trusting the unseen, you rise above delay, doubt, and fear. You enter the state before you act, and your actions become magnetic. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are creating it. So remember this truth. You are the operant power you have always been. It's not about trying harder, it's about feeling deeper. Feel it now. Live from it. Let that inner state become your reality, and the world cannot help but follow. You do not need to beg, to wait, or to chase. You only need to feel it until it's real. And once you do, the rest is inevitable. There comes a moment in every awakened soul's journey when silence becomes more powerful than approval, when peace outweighs the applause, and when detachment becomes the gateway to true joy. Most people spend their lives tangled in the invisible web of expectations, seeking validation, fearing judgment, chasing things that were never theirs to begin with. But here is a sacred truth. The less you care about what doesn't serve your soul, the freer you become, and in that freedom, you meet happiness. Because happiness was never out there. It was never in the opinion, never in the outcome, and never in the noise. It was always within, waiting for you to stop caring about illusions and start remembering who you really are. Detachment isn't about becoming cold or disconnected from life. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that outside circumstances no longer control your inner weather. You don't stop loving people, you just stop handing them the keys to your peace. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood principles in the journey of personal power. When people hear the word, they often mistake it for coldness, emotional withdrawal, or a refusal to care. But true detachment is none of those things. It is not about shutting down your heart or becoming passive in life. It is about claiming your power back from the external world and placing it where it always belonged, within you. To detach is to realize that nothing outside of you has authority over your internal state. It's not indifference, it's mastery. It's the understanding that your peace is not up for negotiation. It's knowing that your joy, your self-worth, your value, and your sense of wholeness are not dictated by other people, circumstances, or outcomes. So when you operate from that level of knowing, you become unshakable, not because you don't feel, but because you no longer allow those feelings to dictate your alignment with truth. Imagine standing in the center of a storm. The winds swirl, the chaos rages, the voices around you shout their opinions, their doubts, their expectations, and yet you remain still, not numb, not frozen, but deeply grounded. That is detachment. It's the silent confidence of knowing who you are, regardless of what is happening around you. You observe the storm, but you don't become the storm. You feel the pressure, but you do not collapse under it. You hear the noise, but your soul chooses silence over reaction. This is not weakness. This is power, inner power. Caring less doesn't mean loving less. In fact, when you are truly detached, you love more purely. You no longer love with conditions. You are no longer attached to outcomes, behaviors, or timelines. You no longer love with strings attached. Instead, your love flows from a deeper place, one that doesn't need to control or possess. You can allow people to be who they are without trying to change them. You can allow events to unfold without forcing your will upon them. You can allow life to flow without needing to grip onto every moment out of fear of loss. When you are attached, you become a prisoner to the very thing you want. You fear losing it. You begin to act out of desperation rather than faith. You manipulate, chase, worry, overthink. But when you detach, you begin to act from a place of fullness. You are not trying to get anything. You are simply allowing everything. You stop reacting and you start responding. You start grasping and you start receiving. And it is in that space where you have let go of the need to control that miracles begin to happen. The right people show up. The right opportunities unfold. The right ideas flow to you. Why? Because you've removed resistance. You've stepped into alignment. You finally allowed the unseen forces of life to work with you rather than against your anxious mind. Detachment is not a wall, it's a window. It doesn't shut life out, it lets light in. It allows you to see things as they are, not as your fears paint them to be. It teaches you to live in the moment without trying to hold on too tightly to it. You begin to understand that nothing in this world is truly yours to own, only yours to experience. And once you embrace that truth, you no longer cling, you trust. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer fear, you accept. This is not indifference. This is the deepest form of presence, the kind that whispers, I am whole already. I do not need the world to fill me. I only need to remember who I am. That is the true essence of detachment. And in that remembering lies your greatest power. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not at the mercy of luck, fate, or the unpredictable winds of life. You are the operant power, the one who decides, who imagines, who creates. Everything that appears in your world is a reflection of what you have accepted as true in your inner world. The moment you stop looking outward for answers and start turning inward for authority, everything begins to change. Most people live unconsciously, reacting to life instead of directing it. They believe that things happen to them randomly or that they are powerless in the face of external events. But this is the great illusion. The truth is, life is not happening to you, it is responding to you. Your assumptions, your beliefs, your inner conversations, and your emotional states are all sending out signals, and the world reflects those signals right back to you. This is not magic, it is law. The outer world is a mirror, and that mirror cannot reflect something you have not first impressed upon it from within. When you accept the identity of a victim, you surrender your creative power. You begin to believe that others have control over your happiness, your future, or your potential. You blame people, situations, and your past for where you are. But blame is bondage. It keeps you chained to the very things you want to escape. You cannot evolve while clinging to the narrative that you are powerless. The key is to rise above the story, to look at your life and say, I created this, and because I did, I can create something new. Taking full responsibility for your life is not about guilt or shame. It's not about blaming yourself for the things you didn't know before. It's about stepping into a new understanding that from this moment on, you are the source. You are not a puppet pulled by strings. You are the hand that holds the strings. You are the cause, not the effect. And this realization is not a burden, it's liberation, because if you created a limited reality through unconscious beliefs, you can now create an empowered one through conscious knowing. Everything begins in imagination. Every experience you've ever had was first preceded by a state, an inner vibration, a feeling, a belief. Even when it seemed like things happened randomly or against your will, there was always a deeper alignment happening within you. This is not always easy to accept, but it is always freeing. Because once you see yourself as the operant power, you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for things to change and begin changing yourself instead. And as you change, your world must follow. It has no choice. It is the servant of your mind. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. The very fact that you can imagine a new life, feel it in your heart, and believe in it with persistence means you already hold the seed of it within you. Nothing outside of you needs to shift before you decide to be who you truly are. The shift must happen inside first, and when it does, reality bends to match it. That is how powerful you are. Even in moments of challenge, even when things appear bleak, you can return to this truth. You are the operant power. You don't need to manipulate the outer world. You simply need to assume the state of being you desire and remain faithful to it. Persist in it. Live from it. Walk through life with the confidence that what you hold within must unfold without. Now, that's not hope. It's law. So when life whispers doubt, when fear creeps in, when the world seems to push back, stand firm in your knowing. Remember that everything begins with you, not outside of you, not in someone else's hands, in you. And when you know this deeply, you will stop reacting and start creating, because the power has always been yours. Approval is one of the most seductive prisons the mind can live in. From childhood, we are taught, sometimes subtly, sometimes directly, that our value is tied to how others perceive us. Be good so others approve. Perform well so you're praised. Fit in so you're accepted. And slowly we begin to tie our sense of worth to outside validation. We start looking outward to know if we're enough, if we're lovable, if we're worthy. The need for approval becomes an invisible chain, one that may look like ambition or politeness on the surface, but underneath is fueled by fear, insecurity, and a silent desperation to be seen and accepted. But the moment you allow someone else's opinion to define you, you've handed them power over your inner world. You've built your identity not on truth, but on perception. And perception is fleeting. People's opinions change with the wind. One moment they love you, the next they judge you. You can perform perfectly and still be misunderstood. You can give everything and still not be enough. For those who cannot see your worth, the pursuit of approval is endless and exhausting, because it is based on an illusion that your value is something you must earn. The truth is, seeking constant approval means you're denying your own knowing. You abandon your instincts. You water yourself down. You betray the deepest parts of who you are just to receive a nod, a smile, a compliment, or a temporary sense of acceptance. But what is the cost? You lose authenticity. You lose peace. You lose the joy that comes from simply being you, without permission, without apology. Freedom begins the moment you stop chasing approval and start cultivating self-belief. It's when you no longer need the outside world to confirm what you already know on the inside, that you are enough, you are worthy, and you are here for a purpose greater than being liked. Self-belief is not loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It moves quietly, confidently, rooted in a deep connection to the truth of your being. When you believe in yourself, not based on results or reactions, but from a place of inner certainty, you become unshakable. Self-belief is liberation because it is unconditional. It doesn't rise and fall with praise or criticism. It remains intact, in silence, in solitude, in struggle. It gives you the courage to say no when others expect yes. It gives you the strength to walk alone when the crowd moves in the opposite direction. It allows you to express yourself fully, not because everyone agrees, but because you no longer require agreement to feel valid. You must understand this deeply. The only approval that ever mattered was your own. The only voice you truly need to listen to is the one within. When you stop performing and start being, when you stop chasing and start trusting, when you stop asking for permission to exist, you awaken a power that cannot be taken away. It's not arrogance, it's not pride, it's the quiet realization that you were never broken. You were just buried under layers of conditioning that told you your worth was outside of you. The less you care about being approved, the more you begin to live in alignment. You begin to say what you mean. You begin to dress how you like. You begin to create from your soul instead of your fear. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because people are drawn to authenticity. And even if they aren't, it no longer matters. You're no longer living for applause. You're living in your truth. Approval may feel like safety, but it's a cage. Self-belief may feel unfamiliar at first, but it's the path to freedom. Because when you know who you are, deeply, truly, without conditions, no one can give you more than what you already possess within. Resistance is the act of pushing against something with the belief that doing so will help you overcome it. But in truth, the more you resist, the more you give life and energy to the very thing you want to escape. What you focus on grows. What you fight, you fuel. And what you refuse to accept takes root more deeply in your reality. This is one of the great paradoxes of life. The harder you struggle against something, the more it clings to you. It is not force that sets you free, it is surrender. When you resist a thought, you reinforce its presence in your mind. When you resist an emotion, you strengthen its grip on your body. When you resist a circumstance, you feed it with your attention, your fear, and your frustration. Resistance is not strength, it is a disguised form of attachment. And attachment says, I need this to go away before I can be at peace. The true peace does not wait for circumstances to align. It is found in the stillness that allows life to be as it is, without needing to control every detail. Letting go is not giving up. It's not weakness or passivity. Letting go is choosing to stop carrying what was never yours to hold. It is releasing the illusion that you can bend reality through worry, fear, or force. It is deciding that your inner state is more important than the outcome you once obsessed over. You let go, not to lose, but to gain something greater, your freedom. When you let go, you stop feeding the problem with your energy. You step back and create space for new answers, new insights, and new outcomes to emerge. You allow life to rearrange itself without your interference. And in that space of surrender, the miraculous begins to happen. You begin to see clearly. You begin to breathe again. You begin to return to the truth that you were never meant to carry the weight of everything alone. Letting go is a declaration of trust. It says, I no longer need to control this. I trust that life is unfolding for me, even if I cannot yet see how. It's a shift in consciousness, from grasping to allowing, from force to flow, from fear to faith. And the moment you truly let go, something powerful happens. The energy that once held you in tension begins to dissolve. The emotional charge weakens. The urgency fades. You realize that the power you were looking for was never in the fight. It was in the release. You cannot change what you continue to argue with internally. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. You cannot move forward while your mind is fixated on what went wrong, what they did, or what should have been different. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop obsessing. It means you stop giving your peace away to things beyond your control. There is incredible strength in allowing. When you no longer resist what is, you create room for what can be. You allow emotions to rise and pass like waves. You allow others to be who they are without needing them to change. You allow life to surprise you, guide you, and support you in ways that control never could. And from that place of deep acceptance, you become light, you become free. You no longer carry the burden of resistance. And in doing so, you discover how much power you truly have, not because you're holding on, but because you finally let go. Letting go is the doorway to peace. It is the invitation to return to your center. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that life is always working in your favor, even when it doesn't look like it. When you stop resisting, you step into the flow. And in the flow, everything you once chased begins to find you. Your energy is your most valuable asset. It is the invisible force that shapes your thoughts, fuels your actions, and magnetizes your reality. How you feel, how you show up, how you manifest, everything begins and ends with your energy. Yet, so often, we give it away without a second thought. We drain it on people who don't value us, on arguments that don't matter, on fears that never come true, and on chasing validation that only leaves us emptier. And then we wonder why we feel scattered, stuck, or uninspired. The truth is, when your energy is unprotected, your power is diluted. Every person, thought, and environment either nourishes your energy or depletes it. There is no neutral exchange. So if you're not consciously choosing what you allow into your space, you are unconsciously allowing yourself to be shaped by energies that are not aligned with your higher self. That one negative conversation, that endless scrolling on social media, that toxic relationship you tolerate, they're not just moments, they're exchanges. And every time you engage with them, you're spending a piece of your internal currency. The question is, are you spending it wisely? To protect your energy is to guard your inner world as sacred. It is to recognize that your peace is not a luxury, it is your foundation. It is what keeps your mind clear, your vision sharp, and your heart open. You do not owe anyone access to your peace, your time, or your spirit simply because they ask for it. Boundaries are not barriers. They are filters. They ensure that what enters your life is worthy of your energy and aligned with your truth. Start noticing how you feel after certain interactions. Do you feel uplifted, expanded, and empowered, or do you feel drained, anxious, or small? Your body knows, your intuition knows, your energy never lies. The more in tune you become with how you feel, the easier it becomes to discern what strengthens you and what weakens you. And with that awareness, you reclaim the right to choose again, this time from a place of alignment rather than obligation. There is also the inner aspect of energy protection. Not everything that drains you comes from outside. Your own thoughts can be the biggest thieves of your energy. Worry, doubt, overthinking, guilt, these are not just emotions, they are frequencies. And when you entertain them repeatedly, they create loops that pull you further and further from your power. So the work is not just about protecting yourself from the outer noise, but also from the noise within. It's about becoming the gatekeeper of your own mind. You choose which thoughts to water and which ones to starve. Protecting your energy also means choosing your focus. What you give your attention to, you give your life to. If you constantly focus on what's missing, what's wrong, or what could go wrong, you are spending your energy building a version of reality you don't even want. But when you shift your attention to what you love, what inspires you, and what calls to your highest self, your energy rises, and with it, your entire experience of life shifts. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are not here to constantly explain yourself, defend your choices, or carry the weight of other people's projections. You are here to protect the flame within you, to keep it burning, to feed it with love, truth, and presence. Because when your energy is pure, clear, and whole, you become magnetic. You don't have to chase, you don't have to convince, you simply attract. Because your energy speaks louder than your words. To treat your energy like gold, oil, precious, and sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. Not every thought deserves your attention. And not every emotion deserves a throne in your heart. When you live this way, not only do you protect your energy, you amplify it. And from that place of power, peace, and presence, you can create anything. In a world that constantly demands motion, noise, and reaction, stillness is the rarest and most powerful state you can cultivate. Inner stillness is not just silence. It is alignment. It is the deep, unshakable knowing that no matter what chaos swirls around you, your center remains untouched. And from that center, everything flows, not through force, but through resonance. Inner stillness becomes a magnet for outer harmony because it radiates clarity, peace, and certainty into a universe that responds not to what you want, but to what you are. Most people believe they need to fix the outside world in order to feel better on the inside. So they chase solutions, rearrange circumstances, and try to control outcomes. But what they fail to see is that the outer world is only a reflection, a mirror of the inner state. If your mind is anxious, you will experience situations that affirm anxiety. If your emotions are chaotic, life will echo that disarray back to you. But when the inner world becomes still, calm, and rooted in truth, the outer begins to soften, to align, and to organize itself around that stillness. Stillness is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of awareness. It is the space between reactions where you choose consciousness over chaos. It is the moment you decide to pause, breathe, and return to your center before speaking, acting, or judging. And that one moment of stillness changes everything. It breaks the cycle. It shifts the vibration. It allows you to respond with wisdom rather than react with fear. This inner calm doesn't come from avoiding life or pretending things don't affect you. It comes from facing life fully while knowing that your peace is not negotiable. It's knowing that you don't have to engage every battle, comment on every opinion, or prove yourself to anyone. Stillness is quiet confidence. It is the energy that says, I know who I am and I don't need noise to feel powerful. From this space, you move deliberately, speak with intention, and act in alignment with your higher self, not out of urgency, but out of clarity. When you cultivate stillness, you stop chasing and start attracting, because you're no longer trying to force life into shape. You're letting life rise to meet your vibration. You're trusting the flow, knowing that what is meant for you cannot be missed, and what is not meant for you cannot be forced. And that kind of energy draws everything you desire toward you, not through striving, but through surrender, not through noise, but through alignment. The outer world responds to coherence. It responds to the frequency you emit, and stillness is one of the most coherent frequencies you can hold. It means your mind, body, and soul are not at war with each other. It means you're not trying to escape the moment. You are inhabiting it fully. And from that presence, solutions appear, ideas flow, people are drawn to your peace, even if they don't understand why. You become a calming force in the storm, not because you avoid the storm, but because you've learned how to find shelter within yourself. Inner stillness is also the place where your truest guidance comes. When the mind is loud, intuition is drowned out. But in stillness, the whispers of your soul become audible. You begin to hear the deeper truth beneath the surface thoughts. You begin to feel your path rather than analyze it. Answers come not from logic, but from knowing. And you start to live in harmony, not because life becomes perfect, but because your inner world stops being dependent on perfection. Stillness is not something you wait for, it's something you choose. It's a discipline, a practice, and ultimately a way of being. And the more you return to that space within, the more the world begins to reflect that serenity back to you. You don't just find peace, you become it. And when you become peace, harmony follows you, not because you force it, but because you are it. Happiness is not something you chase, it is something you allow. It's not a prize at the end of a long, exhausting effort. It's not hidden in a future goal, another achievement, or someone else's approval. Happiness arises naturally when who you are, what you think, and how you act are in harmony. It is the byproduct of alignment, not a reward for struggle. And the moment you understand this, your entire way of living shifts. From striving to allowing, from proving to being. Most people live with the belief that they must earn their happiness. They believe they must do more, become more, or achieve certain milestones before they can feel peace or joy. So they spend years working, sacrificing, and running toward a vision of happiness that always seems just out of reach. The problem is not that they lack effort, is that their effort is disconnected from their truth. They're climbing ladders that lean against the wrong walls, seeking validation in places that were never meant to give it. And so, even when they arrive, they still feel empty. But when you live in alignment, when your thoughts match your desires, your actions reflect your values, and your emotions are allowed to flow freely, happiness becomes inevitable. You don't need to force it or pretend it. You don't need to perform for it or depend on others to grant it to you. It simply rises within you like the sun after a long night. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stop resisting it. Alignment begins with honesty. Honesty about what you want, how you feel, and what is true for you. Not what others expect, not what tradition dictates, and not what fear allows. When you start honoring your own path, even if it makes no sense to others, you step into integrity with your soul. That integrity is where joy lives. You don't need perfect circumstances, you need inner agreement. When your heart says yes and your actions follow, you feel whole. And in that wholeness, happiness flows. There is a quiet kind of joy that emerges when you no longer betray yourself for acceptance, when you stop saying yes to things that drain you, when you stop chasing people who don't see your worth, when you stop pretending to be who you're not just to fit in. That is when the lightness returns. That is when you feel a sense of peace that doesn't need a reason. That is when you realized happiness was never missing. It was just buried beneath all the roles you thought you had to play. Effort has its place, but it is not the creator of happiness. It is the result of inspiration that comes from alignment. When you're aligned, effort becomes effortless. You move with passion. You create with flow. you speak with clarity, and you live with purpose. Everything you do becomes an extension of who you are, not a tool to become something you're not. And that is the most liberating way to live. Happiness does not demand that your life be perfect. It asks that your relationship with life be honest, that you meet each moment with presence, that you choose thoughts that serve you, that you release resistance and come home to yourself again and again. When you live this way, happiness is not rare, it is natural. It is not something you achieve one day, it is something you become. So stop trying to chase happiness through effort that disconnects you from your essence. Begin aligning with what lights you up, what calms your soul, and what feels true. Your joy is not waiting in the distance. It is waiting inside the moment you decide to honor yourself completely. From that place, happiness no longer becomes a goal. It becomes your way of being. There is a powerful conclusion to the entire speech titled, "The Less You Care, the Happier You Get," written in a style you've requested. So what happens when you finally stop caring about the noise, the judgment, the expectations, and the endless race for validation? You return home to yourself. You remember that you were never meant to beg for peace, force love, or prove your worth. You were meant to be, to live from the inside out, to align, not to chase, to feel, not to fight. You realize that happiness was never somewhere outside you, waiting to be found. It was always within you, waiting to be chosen. Letting go is not weakness. It's power. It's the deep inner knowing that you are the operant force of your reality, that you don't need to grasp, control, or resist to be safe, whole, or loved. The moment you stop caring about things that don't matter, the things that do begin to flourish. Your peace deepens, your joy expands, and your life begins to reflect the freedom of your inner world. So care less, not from indifference, but from wisdom. Care less about opinions, care less about outcomes, care less about anything that asks you to abandon yourself, and care more about your alignment, your truth, your stillness, your energy, because in that space where you're no longer forcing or fearing, you become magnetic. And in that magnetism, everything you've ever truly desired begins to find you effortlessly. The less you care about controlling life, the more life begins to align for you. And in that alignment, you don't just find happiness, you become it.